Hi everyone, I'm Susie, aka Queen of Diamonds, and welcome back to my channel where in today's video I'm going to be talking you through just a quick demonstration of how to do what I call a life wheel, and it also involves a card reading technique as well. So here's my life wheel for this year. Now some of you may have seen similar techniques to this before. But I'm just going to go over how I do it and also the card reading that goes along with it as well. So I actually learned a version of this a few years ago when I attended a workshop. It was slightly different to this, but I've sort of adapted it over the years into the way that I do it, and I added the card reading part myself that wasn't part of the original exercise. Recently, at the end of 2022, I went on a retreat, and one of the workshops during that retreat was an art workshop. However, I'm not very good at being creative when I'm told to be creative. I have to be really inspired. So while everybody else was drawing a picture about autumn, I decided to draw my life wheel instead. So I did a pie chart basically instead of a work of art. This is why it looks a little bit rough, as you can see, because I did it completely freehand, and I also did it with poster paints, whereas normally, as you'll see in this video, I would use very precise tools like a compass and ruler, etc, etc. So this one looks a little bit rough, but this is what I did on the retreat. And when it came time to share our artwork, everybody was really intrigued and they wanted to know more about the technique and how I did it. So I thought I would put together this video so you guys can do it too. So the life wheel is something I tend to do at the end of or the beginning of each year. So I thought it'd be good to put it out seeing as it's the beginning of 2023, so that you can do it for the year ahead for your life. So all it is, it's very simple. It's just a pie chart. So it's just a circle divided into 8 segments. Sometimes I do 10, but in this case I did 8 because I think it was I couldn't remember what the other 2 segments usually were because I didn't have my previous year's ones on me. So you just take a wheel, divide it into 8, and then you can label each segment with whichever area of your life you want. You can use the areas that are most important to you. So I've got money, career, because they can be different, love, social life, health, spiritual life, projects, that's very important to me, hobbies and projects, and environment. And what I mean by environment is my home environment and the area in which I live. I don't mean like the environment like environmental issues, for example. So you could call that home or a neighborhood, household, whatever you want, but for me it's my living environment, so I just call it environment. And you can use whatever colors you like on your life wheel. I've used colors which I find symbolic, so red for love, green for money, for example. You can use whatever colors you like. Now basically the way it works is each segment, if a segment is completely full, then that is at a 10, and if a segment is completely empty, then that means it's a 0. So you want to start filling out the segments according to how much of that influence you think you have in your life. For example, in this wheel which I did last year, I felt my money was a little bit lacking, so I did my money level at about a 5 out of 10. On the other hand, my love life was very full and happy, so I've done that at about a 9. I never really do up to a 10 because I think, you know, you can never have perfection in any area, but if you want to do a 10, that's fine. But I put love at about a 9 because I was very happy with that. My social life is about an 8 because it was very, very active. My health, I've got around a 7 because it was fine, but I hadn't maybe been exercising as much as I normally would. My spiritual life, I've put quite low, around a 3 or a 4, because at the time last year, I really felt that I was neglecting the spiritual side of my life, because I was so busy with the other areas of my life and so on. You can see the others. Career is around a 5, 6, so kind of middling, you know. Anyway, quite happy with my home. That was about 8. So, but you can fill them out to just think of the number that you would put out of 10 for that in your life, and just mark it out and then colour it in. So it just gives a really clear visual picture of what's going on with your life at any given time. So as you can see, at the end of last year, I felt like my love life and my social life were very busy, very full. Also at my home, I was very satisfied with my home environment. However, my money and my spiritual life were somewhat neglected or lacking. So once you've done this with your different areas, you can really see which areas of your life you want to focus on for the next year. And what is interesting to note is that it's how you feel about them. So not everything has to actually be at a 10 if you don't want it to be at a 10. So perfect example, when I drew this out last year, I realized my social life was about an 8, and my spiritual life was very low. And I realized that I've been so caught up with a busy social life that I'd neglected my spiritual practices because I haven't had time to focus on them, for example, like my meditation and things like that. And it just made me realize that I actually want to bring down the social side of my life a bit this year and really find more time for my projects and my career and my spiritual life. So it's how you feel about them. So while something may be at a 10 or quite a low score, if you're happy with how much of that is in your life, then it's absolutely fine. For example, if you were single, your love life might be quite low. Your love score may be like a 2 or a 3, but you might be perfectly happy being single and not having to deal with a partner or anything like that. So you might actually feel no need to increase that. So just take a look at what you've got once you've filled this out for where you are now, and just think, am I happy with these levels in my life? It's a really nice way to get like a overview, a snapshot, and then from this you can look at what you want to change in the coming year or the year ahead. So for example, I looked at this from last year and I realized, okay, I want to increase the spiritual side of things and decrease the social side of things. So how do I go about that? And that's how you can create goals, and you can create ideas and ways forward by just, once you've got this clear picture, it makes it a lot easier to decide which goals you're going to focus on. For example, I'm not going to say yes to so many social engagements, and I'm going to book out time to focus on completing projects that I really want to do, or to look at ways to supplement my income, for example. So that is my snapshot for this past year gone. And now I'm going to show you how to do the look at the year ahead, your wishes for your life in the year ahead, and also how to do the card reading that will accompany that. So I've got all my bits and pieces, and I'm just going to start to draw my wheel for the year ahead on the other side of this one. So now I've drawn my blank wheel for next year, and I'm just going to start colouring it in. So now it's all coloured in, and you can see the different changes that I've made from last year's wheel. I've also added actual, because that was where I actually was last year, and I've added predicted for this year, because at the end of the year I'm going to do another one of these as a snapshot of where I actually got to, so I can compare the two. So as you can see, I've made a few changes. My love is the same. My career is the same, because I'm pretty happy with where that is right now. It's not my main focus this year. My health I've kept the same, because I'm pretty healthy, and again, so last year I was doing a lot of fitness. I was in some fitness competition, so that was more of a focus last year, and this year I'm happy to just coast. By the way, if you can hear any noises in the background of this video, a huge thunderstorm has just started where I am filming, so if you hear any noises in the background, that's what it is. Back to the wheel. I've increased my environment slightly, because I'm happy with my home, but there's a few sort of DIY things that I just want to finish off. My projects and my spiritual, I've increased to about 8 from, what were they at? They were quite low, because I really want to focus on those this year. Same with the money. I'd like to increase my income this year. I mean, who wouldn't, especially at the moment. And like I said before, my social life was very high on last year, and I've just brought it down because I just want to not be so busy socially, so I've got more time to focus on these projects and things like that this year, and then I can get back to socializing again after that. So now I'm just going to show you very quickly how to do a quick reading around each of these areas that will just give you some guidance for the rest of the year. So now we've drawn out our life wheel for the year ahead, for what we are projecting. I'm now going to show you how to do a really easy card reading that will help to give you some guidance on how you can make these changes happen in your life. So I've shuffled my deck and I've asked the question for the cards to give me guidance for the year ahead. So all I'm going to do is, in a clockwise rotation, I'm just going to lay out 3 cards for each of the areas. So 1, 2, 3. And I'm doing these in groups of 3. I'm not going round 3 times. So I'm doing them in groups of 3. So 3 at a time. As opposed to doing 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 like that. I'm just doing them 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, if that makes sense. So now I've got my 3 groups of 8 cards, 1 for each area. I've just neatened them out a little bit to make it a little bit nicer. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to take each group in turn and just read them as I normally would. So the bottom card is left, the second card is the middle, and the top card is the right. And I'm just going to read them as I normally would in a reading of 3 cards from left to right and interpret the meaning. And I'm going to do that for each of the 8 sections. Just pop these ones back a second. And as you can see, I've left some space at the bottom of the chart just to note down the cards that I get for each area so that I can refer back to it in the future. Pop that one back there. So yeah, so just interpret each one in turn, and that will give you some guidance for how to proceed in that area in the year ahead in order to achieve the level that you want. So there you have it. You've completed your life wheel for the year ahead and you've done your card reading, and that just makes it a lot easier to plan out your goals and your ambitions for the year ahead. I hope you found that really useful. What I like to do at the end of every year is look back over my projected life wheel and just see how much I've achieved. If it has turned out the way I wanted it to, if I followed the guidance. And it's just really interesting snapshot, especially in the future. You can see how your life is progressing over the years once you've done it for a few years in a row. So I find it really interesting, and it's really fun, and it's just a nice easy visual as well. So I really hope you guys have enjoyed this video and that you found it useful. If you did enjoy it, then please feel free to leave a comment. Also like and subscribe to the channel so that you can be notified when I post more videos, which I plan on doing more often this year. That's part of my projects on my upcoming life wheel. So again, thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you again next time.